Hello everyone, my name's Tim and this is the Silver Coder, and today's video we are going to look at a problem that happened at my old workplace, and I'm just trying to help them out, and we will go from there. So basically the problem was the Office upgraded from an old machine running Windows 7 to a new machine running Windows 11, actually a laptop, and the software which would have been running on the old machine okay doesn't really work on the new machine. The old software was built for Windows 98. That's not really the problem per se, because it could install on one of the new machines, but let's just say the files or the XML files which the program would process were using let's say elements which were prohibited now, and while there is nothing quote unquote wrong with them, the system would not play ball. So what I thought I could do was to convert these files from XML to HTML and then display them in a browser. To give you an idea of what one of these files looks like, here it is here, and it will have, let's say, music in the form of images, and then under the images there are lyrics and verses, etc. So the only parts that we are really interested in is the music and the lyrics, and here with the music file you have a file name, and down here with each verse then there are verse lines, and what you want to come out with is something that we can actually render or display in a web browser. So the first attempt, by the way, that I did in writing this program was to try and load it as an XML document, but the problem which would have been present on the machine they were using, or the new machine I should say, I would get here when you load it as an XML document as well, saying that there are prohibited elements being used, and to try to correct that would be a more of a pain than it would be to convert to HTML for the purposes of purpose of use, shall we say. So what I did was, so what I've done here, the very first thing I did was to create a form, or put elements onto the form, which I could use to do what was needed for the application. And it was somewhat of an iterative process, in terms of the actual programming, but I know all I wanted was to be able to select a file. When I selected the file, that could go there into the edit control, and once it's in the edit control I could then have a process button. Yes, I could have everything hanging off the one button, but at the time I was let's call it lazy. And then what I will do is at the end of the operation the HTML gets displayed here, just to make sure I know what I'm looking at. So with the elements inserted, now comes the time to put some code behind the buttons. The very first function that was written was obviously the one just to get a file to use, and that for everyone should be relatively completely understandable. So basically this, and for those who don't know, this isn't a file open dialog, and if you go to open, we have to go to the form for this one here. If we go to an open dialog here. We can just drop that on the form, and then if that does execute, that means we know the user hit the OK button and the selected file goes into the edit one field. Now the next function then really which we need to do is to let's get rid of that one, is to look at what happens when we hit the process button, because this is where the work really happens. So what we want to do basically is to read the contents of this entire file and then process them line by line. As I said, I did try to, or did want to use it as an XML, but that did not work. And I would also say that all we really need here is something that's a little bit, for lack of a better word, quick and dirty. So, and you'll see why, when we start looking at the code. So we're going to use a string list here, and we will load the contents of the file into the string list. And the next part is we're going to just do a little bit of let's say adding some variables to make our life easier for us, because when you look at the music files being used, these are just relative to the folder which this file would be stored in. And then I'm going to create a title for the HTML, and that will be the file name, which would be just this part here, shall we say. Actually, no, I lie, that would be the file I've selected. So and then once we've got those three parts here, we are then going to process the contents of that file line by line, and then we're pretty much done. So and just so you are also aware as we are here, the reason why I decided against using a browser within the program is because the user would be so used to just double clicking on one of the files and it opens up in the web browser on Windows 7, and then just select everything to paste into a service guide. So I don't want to stop the users from being able to do that part, and so therefore, like I said, I'm going to just have the program just do a shell execute default web browser, and it'll open up. We'll come back to this function in a little bit of detail towards the end. So here is the function that we use to process the lines in the file, and here we'll have a title, and the title will become the title in the of the HTML document, and the source folder is the folder containing the file which we are processing, and as I said, that will be used for processing or handling the music files. So what we're going to do here is just a little tiny bit of how shall I put this, boilerplate code for an HTML file, and this will be for my ordered list for the for the verses, and then we'll come down to the real body of the this particular function or method, where what we want to do is to work out what type of line we're looking at, and from there doing something with the contents of that line. Initially, I thought that I would only need to worry about the verses or the verse lines and the music lines, but it did become a little tiny bit larger, and so I created this enumerated type so that I could work out that yes, I'm looking at a music line or I'm looking at a verse line. And honestly, then the begin verse, end verse, begin lyrics, and end lyrics would be, added in as the program became a little more involved. So, what we will do here is for each line, what we're going to do is work out what type of element it is. So if we go up to here, then all I'm really doing is checking out, do I have one of these tags on my line? And I am relying a little bit on the structure of the file. So if they were not using, carriage return line feeds and some sort of, structure, I would be a bit hard up to work out where, the music started and ended and so on. So, like I said, this is only a, let's call it a quick and dirty program to make something happen, shall we say. So basically, if I find that I got a music line, then I'm going to return it as a music line. If it's a verse line, then it's a verse line. If it's a verse, then it's a verse. Probably important to mention here that there is a reason why the verse line will come before verse, is because if I just pick on verse, then if these two lines were reversed, then it would not be able to detect that one well. Until I have put a space in there, it wouldn't be able to. So something to just keep in the back of your mind when, if you are doing something like that, shall we say. So in this particular case here, I would run into problems. So we'll just put that back how it was. So if we work out now that we're dealing with a music line, well, then we'll want to get the actual file we're dealing with. And so if we go to here, we will search for the music file reference or label and attribute, and once that's found, we're going to copy everything from here on out. We will then look for the last double quote character and then get everything in between. And then what will happen is that will then be returned to the caller, and what happens then is we will then convert that into an image in HTML, and that will hang between two divider elements. So you can imagine then that for each line here we will have a div, an image, and an end div, and so on for each of those lines. Then when it came to processing the verses, what I want to do is to just put them as an ordered list, because then I don't need to worry about any sort of numbering or display of a a numbered verse. The other thing, however, that I will, before we go on, the other thing that I will mention here is the alt tag that I'm using here, and because I don't have the actual files, I just want to say image 1, image 2, image 3, and so on. So we're now at the stage of processing the words, the verses, the lyrics, and what I would do here, or what I did here then, is to, if we are, as soon, let's close that one down, as soon as we come to, let's say something like this, then I'm going to start a new ordered list. Well, actually this one has a refrain or response which I haven't, let's say, properly dealt with, but and you'll see that in a few, when we run the program. But when we get to a lyrics line, we're going to output an ordered list line. And similarly, when we come to an end lyrics, which would look like that in the file, well, then we can end the ordered list, and that will look like that there. And now we are coming to, how are we going to process the verse lines, and how do we know that we are processing a verse? Again, luckily, we're just going to rely on some information that's contained in the file that was being used, or that is used, to tell us, to give us this information. We can see when a verse starts, we can see when a verse ends, and in the middle we've got the line. So we can create an li element here, a list item element, and we know it's going to end there, and then we just have to rip out the text in the middle here. So let's have a look at that here. So when the verse begins, we can just initialize our verse line. We can, as we get a verse line, then we say, well, if I don't have anything to start with, well, then I can use the li. Otherwise, I can append a break to the verse, and having done that, I can then, from the line, get the actual text. Now, to do that, I'm just going to create a bookmark here. So Control Shift and 1, and you can see I've got a bookmark here. And to get the verse text, it is just a case of finding the first one of these and ripping out everything before it, then finding the that text there and ripping out everything after, or just getting a bit in the middle essentially. And then that becomes part of the verse itself. Once we hit the end of the verse, well, then we can output the verse line as well. And because I am the way I am, I have got some, I'm using two spaces of indenting for the actual text. So then because that's all we care about, then once we've processed the file, we just end the body and end the HTML. Now, as I was coding, by the way, what I started with was something like we're gonna go, whoops, too far. I would start off with that, and then I'll just go up a line and to insert the next bit here, so that way I knew I had everything that I needed. So it's just a little tip if you are going to write some code to put the beginning and the end, go into the middle to add the rest. It's a bit like if you are going to work with a file, say, or a file stream, you could do something here like let's go here, var fs equals t, file stream dot create whatever, and then I would do fs.free, and then I will do whatever I want to do here, because then I don't need to worry about the fact, I don't have to worry about forgetting to free the object that I'm working on, shall we say. So once that's been done, I can then output the HTML that I've created into a memo field, and then what I will do is to save the generated HTML to file. Nothing mad, that's just this is just a method associated with a string list, and again then we're going to show it in the browser, and that's here. And what we are doing here is escaping the, if you have a double quote here, we need to put a %, and then it just becomes a shell execute here, and that will then, in this case here, we're going to be doing an open command showing the window as normal, and this is the file that we are going to display. So now when we run the program, the only thing I haven't really done is given it a proper project to name, other than the part with processing a response. The other thing that I have done here, by the way, is that I have played with the alignment so that I can resize it quite happily, and things grow and shrink as I would like. So let us now go and run this. Like I said, I have just a subset of the files which from my old workplace, so because I don't really want them all. So let's go to this one here, and having chosen that one here, we'll process it. Here is the HTML that was generated, and here is the verses as from that particular song or hymn. That part there is the refrain, so I just need to modify how that appears, and the job's done. All up, this particular program took, let's say, honestly about an hour. I had to do a little tiny bit more debugging because of the working out, wondering why the response and the refrain, or were looking a little, why I'm getting 1 and 1, and that to me is not ideal, because I just want them to be able to copy and paste from their web browser into the service guide. So that was the program. Sometimes I guess what I'm trying to say is getting down and dirty for the sake of a solution is perhaps ideal, especially when you, like, I'm not being paid. Look, I'm not saying that I wanted to be paid, but getting something done for the sake of the for what they need is all that needs to be done. Nothing fancy, and the code here does work. So if I were to choose, let's just say, we'll just pick on one of the earlier ones here and see what it brings up. I haven't looked at this, so we're both looking at this for the first time, shall we say, and we've chosen hymn 28 now, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3 verses, and I think that looks okay. So they would then do a control, in here, do a control A, control C, and we're done. So I'm pretty happy with the way that all looks, and you can actually look at the, well, actually, to give you an idea of, they should probably get changed. Those slashes are the wrong way around, I'm going to say. I'll just have to add that little change in, but yeah, and otherwise that program is done. I'll be able to give that to them this week so that when they write their service guides, they will have a way of being able to get the music quite easily. So that's about it for today's video. So let me know if you'd like the source code to this program. It probably may not help you in for actual maybe just usage, but just to look at and explore. I may be able to put another file up, to show what it would work with. But if you are interested, let me know. And if you found this video useful, then please give it a like, or you could share it with some other people who you think might benefit from it. And don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, happy coding, and I will see you then. Bye.